The main character is sitting on the bed in her room. The girl is very tense and scared of something. Night has come. Moonlight fills the room and creates a mysterious atmosphere. Suddenly, a loud scream is heard, which makes the girl's blood run cold. Fear rises in the heroine's throat. She looks around and thinks that the terrifying scream was heard somewhere nearby. The frightened girl is covered in cold sweat from the fear that has completely taken over her entire being. She trembles and puts her hand to her chest. The terrible sounds are approaching. They can already be heard in the next room. The heroine tries to convince herself that everything will be fine. She opens the drawer of the dressing table and takes out a glowing stone. This should help the girl in the current situation. The main character takes the magic stone and squeezes it in her hand. The girl has only one hope left for this artifact, which can save her from an unenviable fate. A few moments later, the heroine begins to carefully examine the magic stone. She wants to believe with all her heart in the power of this magical tool, which has great possibilities. The girl understands that she needs to do something urgently. Otherwise, she will die at the hands of the mysterious pursuer who is approaching and is already in the next room. A few more minutes and it will be too late. Suddenly, a mysterious pursuer appeared in front of the frightened heroine, who was covered in blood and looked like a knight. The mysterious visitor was dressed in strong armor and had a frightening appearance. The knight came close to the girl and called her by name. The heroine's name is Layla, Hildegard. She began to tremble again with fear and broke out in a cold sweat. The young lady's heart began to beat even faster, and she clutched the magic stone in her hand. Layla Hildegard tried to deceive the mysterious knight and said that her name was different. Perhaps the mysterious pursuer was mistaken. The main character tries to convince the knight that he needs another girl. The young knight looked closely at the main character who tried to deceive him. He does not believe Layla Hildegard says that this time he was not mistaken and found exactly the girl he needed. The main character realized that the knight could not be deceived, and she would soon die from his sword. The girl said that she had to do one last thing. The knight did not stop Layla Hildegard. The girl thought for a moment and said that she wanted to ask the noble knight for mercy, but it was useless. The young warrior clutched his sword in his hand even tighter and replied that Layla Hildegard will not be pardoned. A determined man lifted his sword, which was covered in the blood of his enemies. He wanted to strike Layla Hildegard deals the final death blow to finish her off. But the main character is not going to give up and part with her life easily. The girl said that the knight is jumping to conclusions. Layla Hildegard believes that she can be useful to the young man because she has always hated the knight's enemies, among whom she lived. The noble knight listened attentively to the despairing girl and looked at her. Perhaps there was some truth in her words. The young man began to be overcome by doubts. The knight thought for a few moments and asked the main character if she really wanted to live so much that she was ready to do anything for the sake of pardon. The girl answered that the knight should believe her, despite his anger. The knight's doubts did not last long. The young lady's persuasion had no effect on him. The young man's eyes were again filled with anger and malice towards the main character. The knight said that he would release Layla Hildegard, shed all her blood to save her. The main character realized that she has nothing left to lose. She is scared, but holds herself with dignity. The girl tries to cheat her evil fate and asks the knight for one last favor. Layla Hildegard remembered the terrible events that had happened 10 years ago. The burning house and the death of the knight because of these events. The girl asked the young man who had come to avenge his death if she could moderate his anger if she changed the past. The knight replied that the past could not be changed. No mercy would be shown to anyone from Hildegard's line. This was his final decision. The main character really didn't like the answer of the young man who doesn't want to compromise. Is it possible that this ghost from the past, who thirsts for revenge for his death, doesn't want to change everything and finally find peace? The girl quietly curses her unenviable fate and continues to feverishly think about how to avoid a cruel death from the sword of the vengeful ghost. There must be some way out of this situation. Layla Hildegard looked the knight in the eye and said that he had a disgusting character. The young man did not expect such an answer from his future victim. It surprised him, amused him, and puzzled him. The girl didn't hesitate for a second and continued her speech. She had nothing to lose and she would tell this evil ghost whatever she wanted. Layla Hildegard said she regretted meeting the knight. She did not expect the ghost to be a common psychopath. After these words, the girl took the magic stone, put it in her mouth, and swallowed it. Now you need to wait until the magic stone takes effect. The knight didn't understand what had happened at first. He looked at the girl carefully and froze in surprise. Events were not developing as he wanted. The magic stone began to work. The main character suddenly felt a sharp pain inside her body. Bitter tears welled up in her eyes. It took a little more time for the pain to pass. Layla Hildegard fell to the floor of her room and began to convulse. Unbearable pain burned her insides. Maybe the girl swallowed the magic stone in vain. She thinks she will die soon. The ghost of the knight leans over the main character. He feels neither pity nor compassion for her. In his embittered soul, there remains only a thirst for revenge. But for Layla, Hildegard doesn't care anymore. She did everything to avoid the inevitable death from the punishing blade of the vengeful ghost. Now she needs to go back in time thanks to the magic stone and fix everything. The surroundings have changed. The main character is in her bed under a warm blanket. The girl's room is flooded with sunlight. Morning has come. The girl hears the sounds of beautiful music. Her loved ones are leaning over her. Layla always dreamed of such a death. Her father leaned over the girl, and she realized that these were just empty dreams that were not destined to come true. This greatly upset the main character. Layla Hildegard is well aware that she is destined for a hard fate and a horrible death. She is the daughter of a ruthless villain who has committed many terrible deeds. Children must pay for the sins of their fathers. All the main character's misfortunes began 10 years ago in her father's house. Layla Hildegard sank into her memories. Her soul was filled with fears and a burning sense of injustice. The girl remembered that fateful day when it all began. She saw a cute boy who was her age and asked her father who he was. The main character's father replied that she shouldn't worry about the boy and pushed him. The boy's hands are shackled. Apparently, he is in pain from the iron handcuffs. Layla Hildegard was very surprised by her father's cruel behavior towards the boy. But she noticed to herself that this young stranger was very handsome. The main character liked him right away. Layla's interested gaze on him. Hildegard. He stopped for a moment and also looked at the girl with a mysterious look. The meeting between the main character and the mysterious boy did not last long. The young man who appeared to Layla Hildegard, looking like a beautiful doll, was immediately thrown into prison and chained. After some time, the main character wanted to visit the mysterious and handsome boy. She went down to the dungeon accompanied by her maid, but never saw the young man. Layla Hildegard was frightened by the omnipresent smell of blood and escaped from prison. A few weeks later, the main character learned that the mysterious boy had died. Layla Hildegard was very upset when she heard this news. She cried for a long time and inconsolably. The maid did everything she could to calm her charge, but nothing helped. From that day on, the main character began to have nightmares in which the evil and vengeful spirit of the boy visited her. The girl thought that he wanted to take her soul. 8 long years passed in these terrible torments. Layla's life turned into a real hell. One day, the girl learned that a hero had appeared who could defeat any evil spirit. But there was one oddity. This knight looked very much like the boy who had died in her father's dungeon. The main character told her loved ones about it, but no one believed her. Everyone thinks that the girl has a distorted perception of reality because of the nightmares that have been haunting her for 8 years in a row. Layla was mocked by her family and friends Hildegard. They told the upset girl that the dead cannot be resurrected and rise from the grave. All this is just a game of the inflamed imagination of the main character. But deep down, Layla Hildegard knew she was right. The girl had always been confident enough not to listen to others, but only to her intuition. 2 more years passed. The knight, who resembles the dead boy, managed to defeat the monster that visited the main character in her dreams. He returned to the castle of Marquis Hildegard after his feat and made his revenge a reality. Layla survived. Hildegard. Now it's her turn, and she stands before a vengeful ghost from the past, whom the girl could not forget for the last 10 years of her life. There is no mercy in the knight's eyes. He has come to take revenge and will do it no matter what. Now the main character has only one chance to fix everything. She must return to the past with the help of a magic stone and save not only the boy, but her family from death. The main character's terrible memories left her. Layla Hildegard opened her eyes and came to her senses. She realized that she had been able to return to the past to fix everything. The magic stone had worked flawlessly, but the return was very painful. Now, the main character needs to figure out how to correct the mistakes of the past and prevent the death of the boy and her family. She needs to act immediately. Time is running out. Layla Hildegard looked around. She picked up her favorite mirror from the table, the one she had as a child. That's right. The girl had returned to the past. Now she had no doubt about it. The main character looked in the mirror and saw her reflection. She looks exactly the same as she did 10 years ago. This miracle was created by the magic stone that she swallowed. Layla Hildegard put down her favorite mirror and looked at the calendar on her dressing table. The date on the calendar confirmed the main character's successful transfer into the past. The girl remembered that thanks to her intuition, she had managed to hide the magic stone that saved her in her desk drawer. She knew that the boy's ghost would come for her to take revenge. The magic stone was one of the things that her father stole. Now, this magical artifact will be useful to the girl to fix a difficult situation. She needs to use any chance. Layla Hildegard remembered that she had once wanted to sell the Stone of Return to earn money and buy whatever she wanted. But this magical artifact had come in handy for more important things. That was life. And nothing could be done about it. There was no point in getting upset about it. In Marquis Hildegard's house, that can always be sold and earn a lot of money. But now we need to focus on correcting the mistake of the main character's father and saving the boy who is imprisoned in the dungeon. Layla Hildegard had used the return stone several times before. Once she packed a suitcase full of jewelry so she could travel back in time and want for nothing. The main character didn't want to live in a family of villains who mocked her. She decided to fix the past and filled a suitcase full of jewelry. But it was a bad idea. Layla Hildegard successfully traveled to the past with her jewels. At first, everything went well. The girl was happy that she was able to deceive her evil relatives. But, finding herself in the past, the main character met a coachman who took away her suitcase with jewelry. This villain killed Layla Hildegard, and the effect of the Stone of Return ended this time. When Layla Hildegard was 16 years old, she tried to run away from her family again. But this time, the main character was again unlucky. Again, everything did not go as she wanted. The girl went to a distant kingdom to escape the revenge of the dead boy. But the vengeful knight found the main character even there and killed her, having received complete satisfaction and dealt with the entire Hildegard family. During the third use of the returning stone, the main character used marriage to escape the revenge of the dead boy. The girl wanted to give up the Hildegard family name and change it to escape the curse that hung over her family. But this attempt also proved useless. The vengeful knight found the main character there too, coming for her. The dead boy could not calm down until he shed the blood of all the representatives of the Hildegard family. Now the main character has made her fourth return to the past with the help of a magic stone. The girl understands that this attempt to fix everything may be in vain. But she needs to act. Otherwise, death will overtake her in any case. Layla Hildegard looked at the breakfast that was waiting for her at her bedside. This distracted the main character a little from her anxious and useless thoughts. Now was not the time for senseless worry. The maid told the main character that her father was waiting for her in his office. He wanted to discuss important matters with Layla. The girl immediately went to Marquis Hildegard, who does not like to be kept waiting. Marquis Hildegard is very strict with his daughter. He said that she has been acting like a madwoman lately. The Marquis demands that the main character explain her bad behavior if she wants to stay in his house. This angers Layla. The main character is very upset. She is angry at her father for leading an immoral lifestyle and also making a living by various crimes. Also, Layla Hildegard cannot forgive the Marquis for killing the boy she liked. The girl looked at the expensive furnishings of her father's office while he scolded her. Layla cannot understand what she is doing among these villains who call themselves Hildegards. She wants to leave this family. The best solution would be to change the fate of the Hildegard family, but the main character is unsuccessful. She has already made several attempts using the return stone. But all is useless. The main character is overcome by rage. The main character understands that she has nothing to lose. The girl approached her father and said that she was tired of dying, going to the past. The vengeful knight told her that he could save her if he drained all the Hildegard blood from her. Layla asks the Marquis for advice on what to do. The father of the main character did not expect such a turn of events. He is shocked by what he heard from his daughter. The Marquis thinks that Layla has completely lost her mind and is talking nonsense. Marquis Hildegard thought about his daughter's future and decided to send her to his family's southern estate. According to the Marquis, Layla would be able to improve her health and come to her senses there. The girl did not like this idea. The main character was locked in the southern villa of the Hildegard family for 10 years. The vengeful knight found the girl there too. Layla's fourth return to the past ended sadly. One day, the main character woke up in her bed. The knight was already standing next to her bed, holding his sword naked to deal her a fatal blow. Retribution had once again overtaken the representative of the Hildegard family. This time, the main character decided not to resist. She meekly accepted her terrible fate, and only smiled back. It was a brave act. But now Layla will act differently. After some time, the main character went back to the past again with the help of a magic stone. This happened for the 5th time. But the girl's heart is filled with unexpected joy. It seems that now she knows what she needs to do. The main character woke up in her bed 10 years ago. She no longer wants to look in her favorite mirror. She is tired of it. She needs to act urgently. Layla has little time. Now the girl looks more determined. She wants to meet her terrible fate, to free herself from the curse that has haunted her for many years. Perhaps this will help. The main character once again remembered the vengeful knight who knows no pity and always finds her wherever she is. Now Layla decided to look her fears in the eye. The girl sat down on her bed and rested her chin on her hands. She needed to think carefully before taking any action. This time, Layla Hildegard wants to solve her problem and break the vicious circle she is in. During her imprisonment in the southern estate of the Hildegard family, the main character was able to think carefully about the situation she found herself in. The girl came up with a way that would help her end this story once and for all. The main character got up from her bed and went to the desk. The girl decided to sum up her travels to the past to understand what mistake she made, not being able to get rid of the persecution of the dead boy. Layla Hildegard knows that she can return to the past many times with the help of a magic stone. This happens even if the girl dies during her return for various reasons. Now, the main thing for the main character is to save herself from imminent death. But to do this, she needs to think through all the details of the plan that has matured in her head. And she needs to act immediately. The girl doesn't know how many returns to the past she still has in stock. Perhaps this will soon end, and this attempt will be the last. Layla also realized that she always returns to the past at the same time and place. She wakes up in her bed exactly 10 years ago. It will be very difficult to correct the past. The father of the main character burned down the orphanage where the boy who died in prison lived. So he brought him to his castle and locked the young man in a dungeon. The girl regrets that she cannot prevent the fire in the orphanage. The main character realized another important fact. She does not remember the moments of her previous deaths at all. This made the girl happy, because she is afraid to even think about it. Layla writes down her thoughts while sitting at her desk. She carefully analyzes the current situation to find the best solution. The girl thought about saving the boy and preventing his death in the Marquise's prison. The main character wondered if there was a way to not die in 10 years if she saved a cute boy. This could only be tested if she lived until the fateful moment. The girl finally decided that the only way to escape the curse was to save the unfortunate boy who would die in prison. There were no other options. Layla Hildegard decides to secretly visit her father's prison to meet the mysterious prisoner. The girl needs additional information that she can only get from the unfortunate boy. After some time, a carriage drove up to the front entrance of Marquise Hildegard's castle. The main character's father returned home and brought a mysterious boy with him. Layla Hildegard and her relatives meet the Marquis in the great hall of the family castle. They greet their father and turn their attention to the boy the Marquis has brought with him. The servants crowd around their master. They offer the Marquis dinner and warm tea and also recommend that he rest after the tiring journey. The mysterious boy is handcuffed. He walks ahead of the Marquis. The main character looks at the boy with pity. Layla thought about her half-brothers, whom she did not even count. The girl only knows that she has many relatives. Layla Hildegard looked closely at the handcuffed boy. She waited for the appearance of the young man who would haunt her in the future. Now she had to act for sure. The main character again noticed the boy's beauty and thought that he had an unearthly charm. This young man is not like other people. There is some mysterious power in him. Marquis Hildegard pushed the captive boy in the back. He told the youth to move and not to look too much at those around him. The boy lowered his eyes and moved forward. The boy's cheeks are bruised. He recently survived a terrible fire in his orphanage and lost friends and loved ones. It is clear from the boy's look that he is experiencing not only physical, but also mental torment. The main character looks at the boy and her heart beats hard. The girl is very worried. The fate of the entire Hildegard family depends on this mysterious young man. Previously, Layla was excited when she saw the boy because he was so handsome. But now the girl's heart beats because she feels a mysterious power that is contained in her father's prisoner. The main character looks at the mysterious young man attentively and does not take her eyes off him. The boy felt this and decided to look at the girl who paid him such close attention. Marquis Hildegard saw that his daughter was paying too much attention to the boy. He kicked his captive and said that there was no need to worry about him. After that, the Marquis ordered the young man to be taken to the underground prison. This time, the main character decided to stand up for the unfortunate prisoner and help him by showing concern. The girl told her father to stop beating the young man. Maybe this will help change the sad events to come. The boy fell to the floor of the huge hall. He was in pain after the blow from the evil Marquise. The young man's heart was filled with hatred for the offenders who were cruelly and unfairly treating him. The main character tried to reach out to her father's defeated captive. She wants to help the boy and establish contact with him, if it is still possible. She needs to act now. Otherwise, the last chance may be lost. Layla Hildegard noticed how the boy was looking in front of him. The girl recognized this look, which was full of hatred and unbearable resentment towards his offenders. This is how the ghostly knight looked at her, who had already managed to kill Layla and her entire family several times. The main character tries to calm herself down. The girl thinks that this unfortunate boy is still alive. He did not have time to die and turn into a vengeful ghost who thirsts for retribution for his death and knows no mercy for his offenders. The boy tries to get up from the floor where he fell after being hit by the cruel Marquise Hildegard. He noticed the girl who spoke to him. This surprised the young man. Layla leaned over the young man and smiled to gain his trust. The girl asked the Marquis' captive if he was okay and how he felt. It was difficult for the main character to do this, but she overcame herself. The girl smiled again and extended her hand to the mysterious boy to help him to his feet. The young man did not expect such a turn of events and looked closely at the Marquise's daughter Hildegard. A few moments later, the boy suddenly jumped to his feet. He does not believe his offender's daughter and does not want to accept any help from her. The unfortunate young man thinks that the girl wants to laugh at him. Marquis Hildegard's prisoner looked angrily at the main character and recoiled from her. He prepared himself for more attacks from his tormentor's family. This upset Layla greatly. Marquis Hildegard did not spend much time trying to figure out why his prisoner was behaving this way. He ordered the boy to be flogged with rods so that he would realize what a mortal sin he had recently committed. This development of events is not in the plans of the main character. She wants to improve relations with the mysterious boy and save him. Therefore, the girl decided to intercede for the captive Marquise again and turned to her father with a request for clemency for the young man. Marquis Hildegard can't believe his ears. Is his daughter really standing up for this despicable boy who deserves the most severe punishment? This is simply absurd. The main character wants to tell her father that the boy did not harm her and that he does not need to be flogged with rods before being sent to prison. But the girl seems to have swallowed her tongue and cannot say anything. Layla Hildegard knows her cruel and evil father well. She is afraid of incurring his wrath because during her previous immersion into the past, Marquis Hildegard was ready to kill his daughter if she did not change her behavior and stop being crazy. The main character looks closely at her criminal father. Two fears fight in the girl's soul. She is afraid of death from a ghostly knight and cannot be frank with her cruel father, who can also destroy her. Suddenly, Marquis Hildegard smiled and placed his hand on Layla's head. The cruel aristocrat stroked his daughter's head and asked if she wanted the boy to be flogged. Perhaps the girl wanted the young man to be forgiven for the thoughtless act he had committed. Layla Hildegard cannot understand what is happening now. This behavior is not typical of her cruel and evil father. He never showed an ounce of kindness to others. The Marquis asked his daughter if she felt pity for the boy. The Marquis thought for a moment and said that he understood his daughter's feelings. But according to the cynical aristocrat, pity is an absolutely useless feeling in this world. There is no point in feeling sorry for people, especially not for your enemies. The heroine's father added that she should think twice before showing pity to this wild boy. He wanted to attack the girl, so he challenged Hildegard's entire family. Such behavior must be punished. The girl wants to tell her cruel father that the boy's misdeed is not so great. He did not cause any harm to Layla, but the main character remains silent. She is very afraid of the Marquis and his unpredictable reaction. Layla Hildegard looked at the unfortunate boy, and her blood began to run wild. She had not expected such a reaction from herself, but she declared in a loud voice that the disobedient youth must be flogged. The boy looked at Layla with hatred and contempt. The cruel Marquise is very pleased that the true essence of the Hildegard family has awakened in his daughter. True aristocrats must rule over serfs and punish their enemies with all the cruelty they are capable of. This is what the father of the main character thinks. The father looked at Layla carefully and told her to never forget the lesson he had taught her today. Otherwise, the girl would never be able to become a true member of the Hildegard family. The main character pressed her lips tightly together. She wanted to say something to her cruel father, but again she couldn't. The girl understands that in this situation it is better for her to remain silent. Evening has come. Layla Hildegard is in her room. She opened the drawer of her dressing table to put some things in a bag. The girl is thinking about today's meeting with the mysterious boy. The main character wanted to befriend a boy who would haunt her in the future after his death. But today, everything turned out the other way around. In Layla, Hildegard suddenly felt the voice of her blood awaken, and she agreed that the young man must be punished. After today's incident with the unfortunate boy, the main character wanted to die again, but she is not sure that she will be able to be reborn again. Therefore, the girl decided to act differently. Layla Hildegard overcame her fear and decided to go down to the underground dungeon to establish relations with the mysterious boy. The girl took with her a bag containing something useful. The main character stopped in front of the entrance to the dungeon. She thought that she was taking a big risk being here. If Layla was noticed and caught, the Marquis would go berserk. Luckily, today the prison is guarded by a good friend of the girl, whose name is Hans. The main character knew that this knight was on duty in the dungeon today, and she had nothing to fear because he would not give her away. Layla Hildegard confidently approached the guard and addressed him. The girl honestly said that she had come to visit the unfortunate boy and brought him medicine. She did not want Hans to be the culprit of the prisoner's death if he gave her to the Marquis. The main character added that she knew about Hans's cruel act. He beat the unfortunate boy on the orders of the Marquis. Now the prisoner feels very bad. Would the guard, who is famous as a good family man, allow the boy to die? The girl tearfully asked Hans to allow her to give the medicine to the boy. It is transparent and no one will notice its traces. Everything will be fine. The guard looked at Layla carefully. Hildegard. He is overcome by doubts. Perhaps he should send the girl away so as not to incur the wrath of the Marquis. Hans's heart sank. He decided to help his master's daughter. His conscience torments him for beating up the unfortunate prisoner. The guard gave Layla the keys to the cell and said that the guard change would be in 2 hours. The girl entered the cell of the unfortunate prisoner. The boy was lying on the cold stone floor. He was beaten and looked very bad. The main character looked at the boy's face and was horrified. The unfortunate young man still had some strength left, but it was leaving the boy. He was dying. The girl took out a bag of medicine and bent over the boy to treat his wounds. Layla Hildegard took with her an effective ointment that should definitely help the boy recover. The main character began to rub the ointment on the boy's back, treating the numerous abrasions that formed after Hans's heavy blows. Layla took out some medicinal herbs from the bag. The boy must swallow them, but the unfortunate prisoner lies unconscious and cannot do this. The boy must be brought to his senses to give him the medicine. The girl came up with a quick and easy way to give the boy medicine. She decided to chew the medicinal herb to make it easier for the prisoner to take it. Layla Hildegard took a small piece of chewed medicine and put it in the mouth of the beaten boy. The girl said that this should help the boy, so he should not resist. The main character looked at her ward carefully. She thought that he looked very helpless and defenseless. Who would have thought that in 10 years this boy would become a merciless knight who would defeat many enemies? The boy took his medicine. The deed is done. The main character has done everything she could at the moment. Now she needs to return to her room before she is discovered and punished for helping the prisoner. The girl decided to go back to her room immediately. It was already night outside. She was very tired. Layla felt dizzy because she was so nervous. The main character had already turned around to leave the dungeon and leave the boy alone. Suddenly, Layla felt someone grab her leg. The girl did not expect such a turn of events. The unfortunate boy came to after taking the medicinal herbs given to him by the main character. He still did not have enough strength to stand up, but the prisoner was able to grab the girl by the leg and stop her. Layla Hildegard stopped abruptly and was very scared when the boy grabbed her ankle. The girl understands why the prisoner wants to hurt her, but at the same time, the main character strives to establish contact with the boy. The Marquise's daughter Hildegard was always distinguished by her bravery. That's why the girl did not scold the prisoner who allowed himself too much and grabbed her leg. The main character tried to talk to the unfortunate boy and greeted him. Layla said that she did not want to harm the boy. She came to help him and give him medicinal herbs, but the boy does not believe the Marquis's daughter Hildegard. He spat out the rest of the medicine on the stone floor of his cell. The behavior of the disobedient prisoner made the main character very angry. She said that he should not act thoughtlessly with medicinal herbs. These potions are very expensive and difficult to find even in a pharmacy. The unfortunate prisoner listened to the main character and found the strength to rise. The boy looked at Lila Hildegard, said that he didn't understand why she did absolutely meaningless things every time she met him. The girl can't understand what this obnoxious prisoner means. The boy's words puzzled the main character. Could he really be reborn and travel in time? The main character sympathizes with the unfortunate boy. The girl understands that the young man was severely beaten because of her. Therefore, Layla Hildegard is just trying to help, to correct her mistake. The girl's hands began to tremble with excitement. Layla said that she was risking her life by coming to the underground prison. Marquis Hildegard could severely punish the main character for disobedience. Therefore, the boy should trust her. The main character thought that the prisoner had completely lost his last strength and lost consciousness again. But the boy grabbed Layla's leg again to stop her. The girl was again very scared because of the unexpected action of the unfortunate prisoner. Could it be that this brave and proud boy still did not understand that Layla wanted to help him? Layla Hildegard looked closely at the boy's face and clearly saw in it the features of that terrible knight who had been pursuing her for 10 years. A shudder ran through the girl's body. The boy and the vengeful knight are as alike as two peas in a pod. The main character cannot fully believe that this wounded and weakened young man will ever become a ruthless knight who will be impossible to defeat. The main character froze in place. The girl does not know what to do in this situation. She does not want to argue with the unfortunate boy who disrespects her and tries to hurt her. Layla Hildegard knows she has to do something. If she continues to be afraid of this mysterious boy, she will never be able to establish a relationship with him to avoid the curse. The girl grabbed her dress to keep her hands busy. Otherwise, she would lose her temper again and hurt the boy in response to his aggressive behavior. The main character asked the young man to let her go. Layla Hildegard repeated her request, but louder. The proud aristocrat in the girl woke up again, who would not allow anyone to touch her without permission. She knows how to stand up for herself in any situation. The boy looked at the main character carefully and froze in place, puzzled. He did not expect that this spoiled daughter of the Marquis would show such ardor and energy. The young man realized that he was dealing with a strong-willed girl. The puzzled prisoner thought for a moment and let go of Layla's ankle. Hildegard. This was the first victory of the main character over the boy. Could it be that her plan began to come true, and she will be able to avoid the curse? But it is too early to talk about this with certainty. The main character decided to leave the prison cell immediately and return to her room. She had enough adventures and excitement for today. She needed to return to a quiet and safe place to think it over well. The girl quickly ran out of the unfortunate young man's prison cell. She quickly ran past the puzzled guard Hans, who does not understand why Layla is behaving like this. Today, too many events happened that upset the main character. In addition, the girl had new thoughts after a date with a mysterious boy. She urgently needs to leave this sad and scary place. Layla Hildegard runs quickly up the stairs. Several times the girl almost falls down the stairs, but in the end, she stays on her feet. The main character again felt fear of the boy who would grow up in 10 years and hunt for her and her entire family. The girl understands that at the moment the young man cannot cause her much harm. But someday the moment will come when this boy will become an adult knight who will destroy her. Layla remembered the features of the vengeful knight again. The man's face is beautiful, but the girl knows that under the knight's cold gaze hides an uncontrollable thirst for revenge and hatred for the entire Hildegard family. The main character returned to her room, changed her clothes, and went to bed. The girl tries to fall asleep, but she can't. She understands that she needs to be very careful with the boy. She needs to win his trust by any means necessary. Layla Hildegard feels very tired. It's all because of her nerves, which are inflamed after the terrible events. The girl feels dizzy and has a sore throat. The girl needs to sleep to gain strength and come to her senses after meeting a strange boy. Grief won't be helped if you worry too much. Sleep can strengthen the main character's strength. Layla managed to fall asleep despite her anxiety. She told herself that she would definitely survive and quietly sank into the kingdom of Morpheus to see another dream that could help her find the answers she needed. It is the morning of the next day. Bright and abundant sunlight breaks through the window panes into the main character's room. The main character woke up, opened her eyes, and felt that she was full of strength and energy again. There was no trace of yesterday's fatigue. The dream strengthened Layla, as she wanted. Layla Hildegard sat up in bed and thought that today she would try to be less nervous than yesterday. One must treat one's nervous system carefully and attentively. Otherwise, one could go crazy. The main character clenched her right hand into a fist and promised herself that she would fight to survive and break the curse that had been haunting her for 10 long and painful years. The girl got up from her bed and stretched a little. She remembered the dream she had last night. Someone was talking to Layla in her sleep, but the main character still doesn't fully understand whether it's true. Layla Hildegard chose a strategy of behavior with the boy that should bring her success. The girl began to visit the unfortunate prisoner daily, having bribed the guard Hans. The main character was able to sneak into the underground prison and treat the boy. This helped the girl get closer to the prisoner, who was reluctant to make contact. In addition, Layla always brought fresh food and water to treat the boy. This had to be done because the conditions in the underground prison are terrible. The main character finds it very difficult to persuade the boy to accept anything from her hands. The proud young man wants to remain at a distance and does not trust the Marquise's daughter Hildegard. The girl understands that she should not put pressure on the unfortunate young man, who has experienced a lot and now does not trust anyone in this house. But she must be persistent. At least the main character does everything in her power to ease the boy's suffering. Layla tries not to show her fear of the boy. She behaves kindly, softly, and welcomingly with the prisoner, who still does not want to make contact with the girl. But all the efforts of the main character were useless. The girl noticed that the proud young man began to look at her with even greater malice and hatred. It was simply terrible. Marquis Hildegard has arranged a festive dinner. But even during this wonderful and cheerful holiday, the main character cannot forget about the proud boy who does not want to accept her help. During dinner, the Marquis suddenly took the floor and said that everyone was to go hunting with him today. Therefore, the guests and members of Hildegard's family had to be prepared for this event. The main character looked at her father carefully. He again seemed cold, callous, cynical, and evil. He was planning to hunt again. But Layla had no time for that now. The girl sighed heavily. She was irritated by her father's narcissism and cruelty. She had been trying all her life to understand why the Marquis behaved this way, but she could not do it. The main character continued her dinner, but she didn't feel much of an appetite. The girl was thinking about hunting. Marquis Hildegard liked to release wild animals into the forest and hunt them with a bow and arrow. This idea interested Layla. The girl was upset again because the mysterious boy did not want to be friends with her. He turned out to be a very proud and determined young man. Will Layla really have to wait 10 years again for an inevitable meeting with the vengeful ghost of the boy? Almost all the guests have finished the festive dinner and have gone to prepare for the upcoming hunt. The girl is still sitting at the dinner table and thinking about what to do next. The main character is in a thoughtful state. Suddenly, she sees a maid and one of the Marquise's servants nearby, who might be useful to her. Maybe with the help of this servant, it will be possible to achieve some results. The girl smiled mysteriously and looked closely at her father's servant, who was known for his special abilities. The main character had a new plan of action. Layla's mood Hildegard immediately improved. The girl understands that not all is lost. The mysterious boy who is imprisoned in the underground dungeon will still be friends with her. After dinner, the main character began to implement her new plan into reality. She went to the house of the Marquise's servant to talk to him about business. Joy overwhelms Layla. The girl quickly heads to the building where her father's servant should be. If the main character succeeds, she will finally be able to escape the curse that has been haunting her for 10 years. Layla Hildegard found the Marquise's servant and told him about her request. The servant listened to the girl and replied that he was a very busy man and had no time to engage in childish pranks. The servant added that he did not want to anger the Marquis because Layla had asked him to steal the bracelet his master was wearing. This act could cost the servant his life, but the girl does not back down. She tries to persuade the Marquis's servant and praises his special abilities in every way. The servant still doubts and does not make concessions to the main character. Marquis Hildegard's servant is named Wilhelm. He is afraid that Lila wants to get rid of him in a cunning way, forcing him to steal her father's bracelet. But the girl tries to convince Wilhelm that he has nothing to fear in this situation. The main character decided to use a little blackmail to convince Wilhelm, who is in charge of Marquis Hildegard's bookkeeping. The girl promised not to tell her father that the cunning servant had falsified the accounting reports the year before last. Wilhelm tries to deny the accusations of falsifying the Marquis's accounting records, but Layla says she knows about the concealment of funds from the sale of medicinal herbs. After these words of the girl, Wilhelm's hands began to tremble. He was very afraid that Marquis Hildegard would find out about his fraud. The servant began to persuade the main character to keep everything a secret. Layla replied that she would forget everything immediately if Wilhelm fulfilled one request of hers. This is a business proposal that is beneficial for both parties. The unlucky accountant has no choice but to agree to the offer of the cunning and enterprising girl. Wilhelm's machinations must remain secret at any cost. Otherwise, his head will be cut off. The main character asked Wilhelm to wait a little. She needed to do something. The girl thought that she felt sorry for the unlucky accountant. But his secret would be revealed in 3 years because of the story of the struggle for the love of one lady. But that would be later. Lila left Wilhelm alone with her troubled thoughts and went to another place. The girl found a carriage, which the maids were preparing for the upcoming hunt and loading with various things. The main character approached one of the working maids and greeted her. The maid also greeted the girl and asked what she wanted. Layla asked the maid if the loaded carriage was going to the hunt or if it was staying at the Duke's estate. The woman replied that the carriage was going to escort the hunt participants. The girl looked the tired maid in the eyes and said that she wanted to get into the loaded cart and go hunting in it. This surprised the maid very much. The maid did not contradict the Marquis's daughter and agreed to her request. A few minutes later, the loaded cart heads into the forest to deliver the necessary things to the hunters. The main character hid behind the barrels inside the cart. She saw that among the boxes and barrels there was an unfortunate boy who had been put in the Marquis's underground prison. For some reason, he was also being taken hunting. Layla hid in the corner of the carriage and secretly watched the boy, who was sitting quietly and looking at the floor. He was very sad, and it seemed to him that his days were numbered. But the girl was happy that everything was going according to plan. The girl continues to watch her companion. She remembered that during the hunt, the boy was to die from an arrow with blue feathers. The main character wants to save the young man from death and earn his friendship. This is Layla's plan. The girl will be helped by the Marquis's bracelet, which the accountant Wilhelm stole for her. She took it before getting into the carriage. This bracelet has magical properties. In the forest, preparations for the upcoming hunt are in full swing. The cart in which the main character and the unfortunate boy are approaching the general gathering place. The prisoner was forced to leave the carriage when it arrived at its destination. A servant tied the boy's hands with a rope and told him to move. Everything must be ready for the Marquis's arrival. The main character left the carriage. She saw that the boy was being taken somewhere deep into the forest. The girl decided to follow the servant and the tied prisoner to complete the implementation of her plan. Layla Hildegard prefers to remain unnoticed and hides behind the trees. The Marquis's servant and the boy continue moving through the forest thicket. The main character is already tired of making her way through the dense forest thickets, following the boy and his overseer. The girl cannot understand where the Marquis's servant is leading the unfortunate boy. Finally, the moment has come when the guard and the boy stop. Layla continues her observation. She is very interested in what will happen next. The warden took care of the ropes that entangled the boy's hands. He said something to the unfortunate prisoner. But the main character did not hear anything because she was far from the boy and the servant. Now the prisoner's hands are untied, but he has nowhere to go. The forest is full of the Marquis's servants, so he can't escape anywhere. Layla doesn't hear the warden's words and tries to get closer to him. The Marquis's servant rolled up the rope that bound the boy and left, leaving the prisoner alone in the forest. The main character decided to hide even better behind a tree so that the warden would not find her. Layla Hildegard looks at the unfortunate boy carefully. The main character thought that this young man was too calm for someone who was about to die. He didn't even suspect that this place would become his grave. But the brave girl will not allow this. She decided to get out of the forest thicket and show herself to the boy, who was in mortal danger. The young man noticed the unexpected guest. The main character asked the boy how long ago he noticed her. The girl can't believe it because she hid in the forest thicket very well. The young man did not answer Layla. He looked at the girl proudly and angrily and asked where they were now. The main character understands that the boy does not realize all the danger he is currently exposed to. The girl hurried to calm her interlocutor. She smiled sweetly and told the boy that they were in the forest. Couldn't he see it? Layla Hildegard continues to smile tensely, but the boy does not like it. He tells the girl to leave him alone and get out of here quickly. The main character answered the proud young man that he was not in an underground prison now. Therefore, he himself could go wherever he wanted if he was tired of the girl's company. The prisoner looks at the main character carefully. The girl thinks that he is even more angry with her than before, because she does not want to leave him alone. Layla remembers this burning look of a proud and impregnable boy. She had to leave the underground prison once because she was afraid of this look and its owner. But now everything is different. The girl and her interlocutor are in a different environment. Therefore, the main character feels much more confident in communicating with the prisoner, who previously caused her only uncontrollable fear. Layla came closer to the boy and asked him why he hated her so much. The girl wants to clear everything up with this young man here and now. This surprised the prisoner, who is now thinking about other things. The brave girl looks at her interlocutor attentively and does not look away. She wants to get all the answers to the questions that have been bothering her for 10 long years. Layla asked the boy if he was upset with her because she had caused him to be beaten. But the boy replied that it didn't matter. It was much more complicated. The young man looked piercingly at the main character. His eyes reflected courage and determination. Apparently, the mysterious boy has other reasons to hate Layla. Hildegard. The main character is not going to back down. The girl asked her interlocutor what was the reason for his hatred towards her if he was not angry at her for being flogged in prison. The mysterious boy answered Layla that all her actions and questions were absolutely meaningless in the current situation. Whatever she did, everything would be useless. The main character and her family were already doomed to die. The girl looked the prisoner in the eyes with determination. She is not going to retreat and give in because she has nothing to lose. If the main character has at least one chance to fix the situation, she will definitely do it. Layla asked the boy if he would always hate her. Suddenly, the magic bracelet that the main character borrowed from her father began to vibrate. This means that the girl and her interlocutor are in danger. They need to act immediately. The main character quickly approached the boy and covered him with her body. An arrow with blue feathers pierced the girl's shoulder. The heroes fell to the ground. The confused young man cannot understand what is happening. He is in a state of shock because of what happened. Layla shows no signs of life. Suddenly, the main character opened her eyes and quietly whispered that she had succeeded. The girl had managed to save the mysterious boy from certain death. Now, everything would be fine. A few seconds later, Layla Hildegard died from her wound. The new revival of the main character. Already the 6th in a row. Layla woke up in her bed again, but already with a clear understanding that she was able to save the unfortunate boy and completely get rid of the curse. At least the girl really hopes for it. The main character got out of her bed and checked the date on the calendar. Everything matches. She was reborn again. But the girl can't understand what all this really means. She needs to figure it all out. Is it really Layla? Hildegard was able to break the vicious circle of the terrible curse. She tries to compare the facts and understand what is happening to her now. The date on the calendar shows that the girl has been reborn again, but the main character cannot understand why another trip to the past is needed. Little by little, the girl began to guess that she had been reborn because she had failed. The curse had not been broken. The main character's clever plan didn't work for some reason. This upset Layla very much. Hildegard. She sat down on her bed and began to cry uncontrollably. Did she really have to start all over again? The girl was so angry at her evil fate that she began to chew on the blanket in despair. A couple more of these returns to the past and the main character will definitely go crazy. But Layla Hildegard is not the type of person who retreats in the face of difficulties. Suddenly, the main character's mood changed, and she decided to fight for her salvation to the end. Now the girl needs to gather her strength again. restore her peace of mind, and come up with a new plan that will help her break the terrible family curse. As soon as the main character thought about it, she began to lose consciousness. The girl had experienced too many emotional experiences. It completely exhausted her. After some time, the main character was found by her maid. The maid brought the girl to her senses. Layla came to her senses, but she does not feel very well. She is overcome by weakness. The main character asked her maid if she had died again, but the maid thought the girl was delirious. She didn't know what to tell her. Maybe Layla needed a doctor. The girl asked the maid what day it was. The maid told her the date and time. The main character was very surprised. It turned out that she had been unconscious for a whole day. The maid is worried about her young mistress, but she can't help her. The maid said that Marcus Hildegard has returned and brought a strange boy with him. When the main character heard this, she immediately jumped out of her bed, despite her weakness, and ran downstairs. The girl really wants to see the mysterious young man again to make friends with him under any pretext. Layla runs quickly across the slippery marble floor of her home, but it seems to her that she is moving very slowly. This is how the girl expresses her impatience. The main character was almost down in the main hall of her house. She stopped to rest a little and make sure she was not late. Everything was fine. The girl arrived almost on time. Layla Hildegard called out to her father from the balcony and apologized for being a little late. The girl admitted that she was not feeling well, but she really wanted to meet her father, so she went down to the hall. The Marquis was surprised by his daughter's behavior. Layla's relatives, who had gathered in the palace hall, also looked at the girl strangely. Apparently, they were very surprised by something, but they didn't know how to express it correctly. The main character's father laughed loudly, looking at his daughter. The girl cannot understand the Marquis's unusual reaction to her apology for being late. It is very strange. Through laughter, Layla's father said that his daughter surprised him. Could she really, after everything that had happened to her, still be so active? This was worthy of all praise. The girl looks at the laughing Marquis in bewilderment. Her father is either making fun of her or is genuinely cheerful for some unknown reason. The main character wants to quickly figure everything out and understand what is happening here. Unexpectedly, Layla Hildegard felt her nose bleed. She hadn't noticed it before because she was so preoccupied with the mysterious boy and her own survival. The cruel Marquis is not embarrassed by the fact that his daughter is bleeding. It only amuses him. The girl gradually begins to understand why her evil father greeted her so cheerfully. Layla took the handkerchief and quickly began to wipe away the blood that had not yet dried. The girl cannot understand why she is all covered in blood and what has happened to her. It is all very strange. The Marquis admires his daughter's courage and fortitude. He offered to grant her any wish as a reward for her respect. Layla was puzzled by this, but she decided to tempt fate and ask her father for something. The main character thought for a moment. The girl imagined her proud and evil father kneeling before the unfortunate boy and asking him for forgiveness for all his misdeeds. But Layla understands that she cannot ask the Marquis for this. After some hesitation, the girl said that she was not ready to voice her request now. If her father did not object, she would ask him about something later. For now, Layla was simply happy that the Marquis had returned home safe and sound. The father answered the girl that he would fulfill her request another time and went to his office. The main character remained standing and thought about what would be the best thing to ask the Marquis. Such a rare and happy opportunity should not be missed. The girl thought that her father would scold her for being late. But everything turned out so that the proud and cruel Marquis cheered up and praised his daughter. In addition, he promised to fulfill any of her wishes. Everything is going very well. The main character returned to her room. The girl stands in front of a large mirror and looks closely at her reflection. She tries to understand why her clothes are covered in bloodstains. Layla is served by a maid. The girl looks at herself and is surprised by the large amount of blood that covers her dress. She needs to be more careful with herself. Otherwise, she will not be able to escape the curse and will die before her time. Apparently, the blood on the dress came from the girl's nose, but she couldn't remember the reason for the bleeding. Layla thought that it was impossible to get compassion in this house. If someone was in trouble, they would only laugh at him. A maid quietly approached the girl and scared her a little. The maid brought Layla hot tea to strengthen her strength. The main character is not sure if she wants to drink anything now. Layla looked closely at the cup of tea. The maid said that this drink would give the girl strength. The main character thanked the maid and decided to drink the tea. The maid's name is Marie. She is very worried about her charge. Marie had to wake Layla up this morning for her father's arrival. That's what she did. But the maid didn't expect to see so much blood on the girl's dress. It scared her very much. The main character changed into a clean dress and started drinking tea. The girl tries to remember yesterday morning and the moment when she lost consciousness. Layla thanked Marie for her good service and care. The girl said that the bloody dress had helped her look good in front of her father that day. This surprised the maid. The main character drinks delicious and aromatic tea with pleasure. The girl has already calmed down and come to her senses. The blood from her nose is no longer flowing. Now Layla has time to think everything over well. Suddenly, the main character stopped drinking the tea that Mary brought her. The girl asked the maid what was in the drink. It was tasty, but somehow suspicious. The maid hurried to calm Layla down and said that the head cook had prepared this tea for her. It was simply a wonderful drink that would get the girl back on her feet very quickly. It tasted a little strange, but that was quite normal. The main character listened to her Mary and drank her miraculous tea in one gulp. The girl wants to restore her vitality as quickly as possible. The maid was glad that the girl listened to her and drank all the tea. She promised to bring Layla this drink every day so that she would recover faster. The main character did not expect that in this house they could take such care of her. This surprised her. Mary laughed and said that she could bring the girl medicinal tea several times a day. She just had to tell her. Layla was very grateful to her maid because she had seen nothing but cruelty in this house. The maid suggested that her charge lie down on the bed because she needed rest now. The girl felt very tired and went to her bed to get some sleep. The maid Mary lovingly and carefully put the main character to bed in a warm bed. The girl thought that the tea the maid brought her tasted disgusting, but it really helped her calm down. Layla Hildegard looked at her maid and smiled at her. The girl said that she was ready to forgive her any misdeed that she would commit. This surprised the maid. She does not know what to answer the main character, but the main character knows the future that awaits the maid Mary. Next year, she will steal valuables from her mistress's bedroom and escape from the castle of Marquis Hildegard. Life often takes unexpected turns. Layla didn't tell the maid anything about her future. The girl quietly and peacefully fell asleep to see good dreams. This hadn't happened to her for a long time. It was all because of the wonderful tea. A week passed. During this time, the main character never saw the mysterious boy again. She did not go down to his dungeon because she was waiting for the day of the hunt, and it came on time. The girl hid again in the cart, which took her to the forest together with the prisoner. The main character sits in a carriage and hides behind barrels so that no one will see her. The girl thinks that the strange young man told the truth during her previous time travels. She constantly does useless things. This time she needs to act differently. When the cart arrives at the hunting ground, the girl continues to hide in it. She waits for the boy to leave the cart, accompanied by his guard. The mysterious boy passes by the main character. The prisoner was not supposed to know that the girl was watching him. But the boy calmly looked at Layla and showed that he knew about her presence. This discouraged the main character. Layla Hildegard noticed that the boy was tied to the wheel of the cart. Perhaps the moment the girl had been waiting for had come. Now everything was in her hands. She needed to untie the prisoner and let him go immediately to break the family curse. Suddenly, the warden who was assigned to the boy approached him. He wanted to hit the proud young man, but the girl did not allow him to do this. She jumped off the cart and made her presence known. This stopped the warden. The prisoner behaves very decently and calmly. Layla looked at the proud boy and thought that in the Hildegard house there are problems not only with the family members, but also with their servants. They behave cruelly and disgustingly. The main character turned her attention to the cruel warden who wanted to hit the defenseless and tied-up boy. Layla Hildegard became furious and told the Marquis's servant to immediately apologize to the prisoner. At first, the warden couldn't believe his ears. But then he realized that the Marquis's daughter wasn't going to joke. The servant began to make excuses and say something incoherent. This didn't affect the girl. She continued to insist on her own. In Layla Hildegard's aristocratic nature awoke. She began to threaten the servant with reprisals if he did not apologize to the prisoner for his base act of a true plebeian who knows nothing of honor and human dignity. The warden realized that he would have to apologize to the unfortunate boy for his bad behavior towards him. He placed his hand on the prisoner's head and stroked it, asking forgiveness for his thoughtless act. The servant told the boy that he did not want to beat him. He only wanted to caress the unfortunate prisoner and stroke him out of compassion. These were false words, and the proud prisoner answered the warden that it would have been better if he had hit him. It would not have been as disgusting as his hypocrisy. At this point, the incident was over. The warden said that it was late, and the boy had to follow him for the hunt to be successful. Only the main character knows what all this means for the unfortunate prisoner in the near future. The boy and his guard have arrived at their destination. They are talking about something. The main character wants to get closer to hear this conversation and remain unnoticed. Layla hid behind a tree and overheard the conversation between the warden and the boy. The Marquis's servant told the prisoner not to even think about leaving this forest and running away. It would cost the boy his life if he tried. The girl continues to listen attentively to the words of the warden. He told the boy that dozens of arrows would be aimed at him, which would be immediately fired at the young man if he tried to escape. Now the main character understands where the arrow with blue feathers came from during her previous journey into the past. All this is the work of the servants of Lila's father, Hildegard. This whole situation has made the main character very angry. She really wants to come out of her improvised shelter and punish the warden, who continues to psychologically abuse the unfortunate prisoner, threatening him with death from many sharp arrows. Layla noticed her father's magic bracelet. Suddenly, it began to give signs that the girl was in danger. Archers were heading her way, who could kill her. The main character decided to act immediately. She focused on the signals that the magic bracelet was giving her and quickly headed towards the boy to save him from the deadly arrows. The girl has one last effort left, and she will save the unfortunate boy who is in mortal danger. At the moment, the main character is thinking only about the fact that the arrows should not hit her right hand, so as not to destroy the magic bracelet. But something unexpected happened. The boy did not wait for Layla to save him. He began to act preemptively and covered the main character with his body from the arrows. The girl and the strange young man ended up on the ground. It seemed that everything went well. It seemed to Layla that all the arrows flew past them. The girl made a mistake. The young man covered her with his body and received an arrow in his back. He lies on the ground next to the main character and dies. Layla Hildegard leaned over the fallen boy who had sacrificed himself for her. He was dying. The girl realized that today's hunt had been conceived by the cruel Marquis only to kill the unfortunate captive. The main character looks at the lifeless body of the boy with pity and sadness. She hates her father for his impulsive and cruel actions. The girl tries to understand whether all the traitorous arrows have already been fired by the Marquis's servants, or whether he has saved a few more arrows for her. Layla has decided to fight to the end. She understands that she needs to use any chance to save herself, so the girl wants to pick up the wounded boy and take him to a safe place to heal him. The main character drags the boy on herself because he does not have the strength to move on his own. An arrow with blue feathers sticks out of the poor boy's back. It cannot be pulled out without special tools. The boy turned out to be heavy, but Layla does not want to stop. There is not a minute to lose. If the girl stops, her ward will die. He urgently needs the help of a skilled doctor. The main character decided to find her father and tell him what happened in order to figure everything out. A few minutes later, the main character reached her goal. She was able to carry the wounded boy to the place where the cruel Marquis was. Layla's father was very surprised when he saw his daughter carrying the unfortunate prisoner. Next to the Marquis are his servants. They have bows and arrows with blue feathers in their hands. The girl approached her father, who was sitting on a horse. The main character's strength was almost exhausted, but she must do everything to achieve her goal. The main character looked at the cruel Marquis, who towered over her and was puzzledly silent. The girl said that it was time for her father to fulfill any of her wishes, as he had promised a week ago. The Marquis looked at his daughter and her strange burden. He asked if Layla would really say her wish now. Maybe she needed more time to think. The main character answered her father that she wanted her wish to come true right now. The Marquis gave his word a week ago, and it must be fulfilled. Otherwise, his aristocratic honor will suffer. Layla Hildegard realized that she had nothing left to lose. Gathering her last strength, the girl said loudly that she demanded that the Marquis save the wounded boy. The main character made her wish. She spent her last strength on it. A little more, and she herself will fall to the ground next to the wounded young man. And then her life will end. The day of hunting has come to an end. A warm summer evening has arrived. Life in the huge castle of the Marquis gradually calms down. and all the inhabitants of the estate are preparing for a well-deserved rest after a hard day. The main character walks along the dark corridor of the estate, accompanied by a servant. The Marquis has called his daughter to his office to talk to her about important matters. The girl guesses what her father will talk to her about, but for now, she does not want to rush things and prefers not to guess ahead. Right now, everything is changing too quickly and unpredictably. Layla and the servant are standing outside the Marquis's office. The girl has a few more seconds to collect her thoughts. This will be useful to her during a serious conversation with her father. There are simply no other conversations with the Marquis. For a split second, doubt crept into the girl's heart. Maybe her evil and cruel father had come up with a new test or punishment for Layla for the defiant behavior she had shown today. The servant knocked on the door of the Marquis's office. He said that he had brought Layla, as his master had requested. The Marquis allowed his guest to come in. He is sitting at his desk in the dim light of a small candle and thinking hard about something. Today was a difficult day, full of surprises. The main character stands before her father. She feels defenseless, but there is enough strength and courage in her heart to endure the upcoming conversation with the cruel Marquis. The proud aristocrat looked sternly at his daughter and told her to come closer to him. The Marquis's gaze showed not only sternness, but also insight. Layla's father always looked into the very essence of things and understood people well. The main character has carried out her father's order. She stands before the Marquis quietly and calmly. The girl's heart is filled with fear of her strict father, but she holds herself with dignity, as befits a true aristocrat. The Marquis sits at his desk. He looks at his daughter carefully and thinks about how to start the conversation. After a short pause, the proud aristocrat asked the girl what was happening to her today. She had always been obedient and respectful to the Marquis. But today, Layla had behaved very boldly during the hunt. The girl does not know what to answer her father. She is afraid to anger him with her explanations. Moreover, the main character cannot determine the extent of the Marquis's awareness. Perhaps he learned about the loss of the magic bracelet. The reason for the conversation with the Marquis is different. Her father's assistant, Wilhelm, managed to take the magic bracelet during the hunt and return it to its place. There is something else hidden here. The Marquis asked Layla why she had secretly boarded a supply wagon today and gone hunting incognito. The girl replied that she had done so because of the unfortunate boy who had been wounded while hunting today. The father looked at the main character carefully and said that he did not understand why she cared so much about this damn boy. He did not deserve it. It was a pity that Layla did not understand this. The Marquis added that none of this would have happened if Layla had been an obedient girl and had been involved in unpredictable amateur activities. Perhaps the boy had been injured today while hunting due to the fault of the main character. These words puzzled Layla. The main character told her father that she followed the boy into the forest of her own free will. Layla knew that he would be taken on a cart with supplies for hunting, so she sneaked into the cart. The girl thought that she would not be completely frank with her father. She would not tell him that she knew what the boy was intended for on today's hunt. They wanted to use him as game. Layla laughed inwardly. After all, the cunning Marquis could be deceived. The main character added that she was simply curious about this boy who had been causing so much noise lately. That's why she got into the carriage to ride with the prisoner. The clever and cunning Marquis did not like his daughter's answer. He suspects that Layla is not telling him everything or is simply pretending to be stupider than she really is. He absolutely must find out the truth. To avoid arousing his daughter's suspicions, the Marquis smiled and said that it was all rather strange. But perhaps it was normal for little girls to pursue boys they liked. The main character is offended by the Marquis. He is simply mocking her. But nothing can be done. Layla's father is in a strong position, and the girl will have to endure his mockery and jokes about her. The Marquis has not yet decided what to do with his daughter. Perhaps he will punish her exemplarily so that the other members of Hildegard's family will know their place. Layla decided to help her father make the right decision about her. She knelt down and said that she sincerely regretted her disrespectful behavior. The girl simply liked this mysterious young man very much, and she decided to save him at any cost. The main character promised the Marquis that from now on she would always behave modestly and respectfully towards him. Layla would never again contradict her father's will and refuses a gift for her next birthday. The cunning Marquis thought for a moment and asked his daughter what he would get from her in return if he gave her the boy she liked. He did not want to part with his property for free. Layla Hildegard told her father that she would be the most obedient daughter in the world if he gave her the wounded boy. but the Marquis replied that he had enough obedient children. He needed something else. The main character thought for a moment and said that she had something to offer the Marquis in exchange for the boy's life. And she quietly whispered her offer so that no one could hear it except the father. The Marquis liked his daughter's offer. This tempting promise suited him perfectly. The cunning aristocrat thought for a moment and said that he would give the wounded boy to the main character at her complete disposal. From now on, the mysterious captive belongs entirely to Layla. Hildegard,